We are very excited, and the reason for that is we have a fantastic panel of experts to speak to you about some of the more important issues that affect everybody in the room. I want to take some time to introduce them right off the bat, and then we'll move on with the program. Our theme tonight is rediscovering the business districts in Cleveland Heights. Many of you may have driven around our business districts of late, and a little help is needed. Thankfully, help is on the way. If you've driven down Lee Road, our streetscape program is well underway. If you drive by early in the morning like I do, there's guys working every day, so that's a good thing. And that should be completed in about 6 months, so we're very excited about that. On our panel tonight, our moderator is Richey Piiperinan, right over here. Richey, thank you for coming. We also have Bob Brown, a FutureHeights committee member. We have Dione Alexander, Adam Rosen, and Michael Fleming. But they're going to address a lot of the issues that are very salient to life in Cleveland Heights and University Heights tonight. Let's recognize some of our elected officials that are in the audience, beginning with Mayor Cheryl Stevens. Cheryl, thank you for coming. Are there any other council members in the audience tonight that I haven't seen? Oh yes, Nancy Dunbar. Mary Dunbar, I'm sorry. I know someone named Nancy Dunbar, but she's not here. Mary, thank you so much for coming. Ron Register, our school board member, is here tonight as well. And we're very grateful to have all of our supporters and all of our members here. Sue Party from University Heights is here. Thank you, Sue. Mark Wiseman is also here. I saw you earlier, Mark. Thank you for being here. We're a Cleveland Heights and University Heights organization equally, so we value participation of both of our suburbs. First off, I also want to thank Jim Barley, who owns this building. Jim has been a great supporter of Future Heights and also a stalwart when it comes to supporting Cleveland Heights initiatives. We just want to thank him for hosting our meeting in this space. This used to be Rockefeller's restaurant. It's now Forest Hill Kitchen and Ballroom, but they're looking for a new home, Forest Hill Kitchen and Ballroom. By the way, they're the ones that provided the wonderful food. If you had a chance to sample it, if you didn't, you really missed out because the food was excellent. So the space is looking for a new use, and we hope we can all be helpful in finding a new tenant soon. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of Future Heights, someone who I like to call one of the hardest working women in the Heights. She and I have become great friends over my 7 years serving on the board at Future Heights. We've worked closely together on a number of things, and she's just a really wonderful person. Her name is Deanna Bremer Fisher. Deanna will share with us a brief review of Future Heights' activities over the past year and more formally introduce our speakers. Thanks.
Make sure that that works, and I'm going to grab the clicker here too so that I can advance the slides. And first of all, just some of you know a lot about Future Heights and some of you don't know a lot about us. Our mission is to have a vibrant and sustainable future for the two communities that we serve, Cleveland Heights and University Heights. And another way to put that is that everybody who's involved with Future Heights really cares about this place. We love this place. There are so many different things that we love about this place. This place is special, and everybody who serves on our board, everybody who volunteers with us feels that way and wants this place to continue to be the wonderful place that it is and make it even better. So on that note, we have a number of people who have served on our board, who have rolled off the board. We have term limits, so you can serve 2 3-year terms. And so we have all of these former board members who we'd like to thank for their their service. I don't believe that any of them are here this evening, but I'd like to recognize them. And this is our 2016 Board of Directors, and I would like to ask everybody who is on the Board of Future Heights if they would please stand. And at this time, I'd also like to recognize all of the people who volunteer with us, people who help deliver the Heights Observer, people who serve on committees. If all of you could please stand as well, we'd like to recognize you. Thank you so much. We also have a few new people on staff. In the back of your program, you'll see that our staff has grown a little bit, and so I just very quickly want to introduce them. Many of them are here tonight. Let's see who is here tonight. Kathleen Fant, our bookkeeper. Kathleen, you're here, right? You can raise your hand. Stand there. She is way back there. Leslie Kaplansky, our new development associate. Andrea Turner, our managing editor for the Heights Observer and our website administrator. And then we've got two interns here tonight. Nathan Merritt, who's from the MSAS program at CWRU. Nathan, you're going to sign up there and back. And this very first day today, Kirby Santala from the Cleveland Foundation program. So we're very glad to have all of you. So a little bit about our impact. Most of you know about the Heights Observer, and you know how that gives our community a voice. You may also know about our community forums and how that gives us a voice as well on issues that are important to us. You may not see some of the behind-the-scenes things that we do in terms of convening people and having conversations with our elected officials, with our business owners, with our residents to convene people on important issues. You may know, however, about some of the special events that we have, such as Heights Music Hop, which is coming up September 23rd and 24th in 2016. We did an internal strategic plan, and these are the 4 objectives that we came up with for the next couple of years for Future Heights. And there are a couple of these that I'm going to go through because we're working very hard to achieve all of these goals. The very first one is giving our residents more of a voice. Last year we launched our community capacity building program, and we hired our second full-time employee, Smruti Basu, and she's here tonight. Smruti, can you raise your hand? So. And these are our objectives for this program. Smruti's working very hard every day with our neighborhood residents, meeting with them, mentoring them, and working on some very specific programs that I'd like to tell you just a little bit about this evening. The first is our community capacity building program, where we are working with neighborhood leaders through our community building workshops. Last year we had our first round of these, and we had 14 people go through a series of 4 workshops where they were focusing on these 4 themes: learning how to organize their neighbors, working with data, working on identifying their neighborhood assets, and coming up with plans. This year we've got 11 people who are going through this program, and they will finish up this month with these 4 sessions. And I think some of them are here tonight, right? Some of our alumni and some of the people who are going through here. So if you want to raise your hand so that we can recognize you. Very glad to have you participating in that program. And then we also launched our mini grants program last year. We launched it in the fall. We had 4 applications. We funded 3 projects. This spring we had a second round. We had 9 applications, and we were able to fund 5 projects. So we've got a total of 8 projects now that Future Heights has funded. Many of them are in development. Some of them have come to fruition. If any of you went to the Noble community-wide celebration in May, you may have seen some of the signage there that we were funded through this program. And in fact, we've got many of our grantees here today. Back in, I guess I'd call this the mezzanine, sort of behind the stairs there. Many of them have brought some visuals to show you more about their programs. So we've got community gardens, we've got neighborhood groups, some of our public art in our commercial districts, a wide variety of programs here that our neighbors have all come up with. We're able to give them $1,000, up to $1,000 in a grant to help them realize these programs. And then also our public forums. We've held 2 in the past year. The most recent one was on Severance Town Center and reimagining what a future of that would look like. And as you may know, it's just gone through another sale. So we've got a new owner to work with, and we're hoping that we can talk with that new owner and we can continue to work towards a new future for Severance. And then this is really the focus of this year, is economic development. Last year at about this time, I got involved with a group of residents and merchants in the Cedar Lee area who were concerned about the storefront vacancies in that area. And of course, that's an issue that many people have noticed, not just in Cedar Lee, but in many of our other business districts as well. So we started talking about what some potential solutions were and coming up with some new programs. And we've got several great partners with the Cedar Lee SIG, with the City of Cleveland Heights, with other nonprofits such as Heights Arts, and I know Rachel's sitting here in the front row here as well. And we've been working hard to develop some new programs to work on storefront vacancies, to work on helping our existing merchants cross-promote with some of the exciting events that we have here in Heights, and working really hard to market our city as well. So we've got some new ideas for programs, such as a pop art artist program that we can use to temporarily place artists in some of our vacant storefronts. We've got an idea for a new business competition so that we can attract some new businesses to Cleveland Heights. And we also have ideas for signage programs so that when a new business is going into a vacant space, that we can announce that, and we can do so in a way that residents know that somebody is paying attention to this space and we're actively managing this space. We're also working on a comprehensive database. It's very important when you've got commercial spaces that you're actively looking at what are the spaces that are available, what are the suitable uses. All the time people are saying, I want to open a business, and they need to be able to easily access that information. We want to be helpful to the city and to our special improvement districts and to our other business districts to be able to provide that information quickly to people who are interested in opening a business in Cleveland Heights. We want to be business friendly. We also want to help existing merchants. There are lots of issues that they deal with day to day. One of those issues is transition. When you've got a small business owner and they want to retire, we can help them a little bit with some of those plans. And I'm very pleased to announce that Mitchell's Fine Chocolates is going to continue. And the new owners are actually here tonight. Jason Halliman and Emily Bean are here if you guys want to raise your hands. As you may know, they just recently completed a Kickstarter campaign that was successful. They've raised the working capital to keep the business open over the summer as they are learning the business from Bill Mitchell. And so we're very pleased that that was successful, and we're really excited to welcome you to our community. So these are all of the types of programs that Future Heights is now focusing on. And as we looked at going forward with tonight's program, we wanted to focus on some of the economic development. One thing that I forgot to mention that's pretty important as well is that we partnered with Cleveland State University, their graduate school from the Levin College of Urban Affairs, to work on a market study of Cedar Lee. And so this spring semester, they spent all semester surveying, interviewing, looking at research, and they did a fantastic presentation on May 9th at the Cedar Lee Theater. We are now continuing to work with some of those students, even though their program is now completed, and many of them have graduated and moved on to other things. There are a few of them who live here in the city, and there are a few of them who want to continue with us. So we're working on some community engagement activities around the report that they created so that we can look at some of the ideas that they've come up with, work with the stakeholders in Cedar Lee, and decide if there are some of those ideas that we want to pursue. So we're working hard on that. Another exciting announcement that I have for you this evening is that we've got a new website under construction. And so we're going to just take you very quickly through a quick sneak preview of this website, which is launching soon, hopefully in the next couple of days. And so Smriti, if you want to switch over to our live internet connection, which I'm crossing my fingers as technology is going forward. So we're there? Okay, so this is the top part of our homepage. You can see it's a very different look from, if those of you who remember, the current or old Future Heights website. We're looking to be a fresh, clean face to help market Cleveland Heights and University Heights as a community. We've got a lot of information up at the top there, and as you scroll down, we've got a place for Future Heights news. We've got a place for our events. And we've also got a live work section, which is brand new, where we want to highlight our neighborhoods and our commercial districts. Because as we looked at a lot of the community development corporations in Cleveland, one of the things we noticed is that their websites weren't really about the organization as much as they were about the place. And so we have worked to craft our new website to be much more about the Heights than about Future Heights. All the information about Future Heights is still there, but we're presenting it in a way that we think is much more user-friendly. So very quickly, if you just want to scroll down, we've also got a section for the Heights Observer, and a section for information about Future Heights as well, and all of the information about how to donate, who's on our board, our archives, etc. So this is going to be launching the next few days, and so we're very happy to be able to share a sneak preview of it with you tonight. That I'm really excited about. A couple months ago, we found an opportunity that would help us fund some of these new ideas that we have for Cleveland Heights. And this was America's Main Street Contest. So an organization called Independent We Stand, this is the first year that they've had this contest. They are an organization that supports locally owned independent businesses, the kinds of businesses that are here in the Heights. And so I looked at the opportunity and thought, you know what? This is Cedar Lee's year. They've got this wonderful $3.5 million streetscape that they are working on right now. We've got our high school renovation at the intersection of Cedar and Lee. There's a lot of public investment that is going into that street, and it would be wonderful to be able to implement some of these new program ideas that we have to increase the investment there. So we nominated them for America's Best Main Street, and I'm pleased to announce that out of 253 nominations, we have made it to the top 10. So thank you. Month-long voting period, and many of you voted every day as you were able to, and so we're in the top 10, and we find out on Friday at 10 a.m. Who the grand prize winner is, and of course we're crossing our fingers, we hope it's us. So thank you very much for voting for Cedar Lee. And so at this point, I'd like to introduce our panelists and have them talk a little bit about some of the projects that they've been involved in and give their expertise. This is a big focus for Future Heights this year, to look at our neighborhood-serving business districts and how we can rediscover them, how we can make them even better than they are currently. So I'd like to introduce our moderator, Richey Piiperinan. He is the director of the Center for, I want to get it right here, the Center for Population Dynamics at the Maxine Goodman Levin College of Urban Affairs at Cleveland State University. He's a wonderful researcher and an even better explainer of what this data means to us. And so I'd like to introduce him and invite him to come up here and tell us a little bit about some data and about Cleveland Heights.
On the website. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to give you some data. We talk about storefronts, we talk about houses, we talk about real estate, but without the context of data, it's hard to know what it all means. So I'm going to give you some Cleveland Heights data. Show a raise of hands. Thinking about economics and demographics, do you think the city of Cleveland Heights has gotten worse or better over the last 10 years? So worse. Don't be shy. Better? So I think some
What do you mean by that?
educational attainment, income, those two things. So we're going to talk a lot about demographics in the cities. That's what we do. That's what I do. So we'll take a look. So looking at per capita income, so we want to look at the region. Because regions, how the metro, how that's doing affects the neighborhoods. So let's look at the MSA. So per capita income. So this is a measure of doing well. How much people make. So this is Cleveland, Greater Cleveland, 5 counties. 2009, we were 43,000. So this is average income per person. 2014 up to 47,000. So this is surprising to a lot of people because people think Cleveland's not doing well. It's actually a higher income than 2000 when everyone thought Cleveland was doing very good. Again, this is per capita income. There's a lot of issues we're going to talk about median income, disparity, which we'll get into. But that growth from 2009 is the 8th highest growth in the nation of the top 40 cities, in front of Seattle. Again, wealth affects neighborhoods, it affects houses, it affects storefronts. So this is the workforce age 25 to 44. Now these are people employed. This doesn't count people not employed. So people employed 25 to 44 with an advanced degree. 20.3% of our young adults have an advanced degree. That's 5th in the nation. Behind DC, San Fran, San Jose, and Boston. Again, this is important and it informs us in a way that we didn't know. Now let's break it down for the city of Cleveland Heights, city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, United States. This is the percent of the population with a college degree. 51% of Cleveland Heights residents have a college degree. 50% it was in 2009, but it's held its own and it's grown. Now this is a lot. We can compare what the United States is, college educational attainment. It's 29%.
Is this adults over a certain age?
Adults 25 and up.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Counties 30.3%. City of Cleveland 15.2%. Advanced degrees, Cleveland Heights is 27.2%. This is really high. The United States 11%. So a very highly educated city. Extremely highly educated. So let's look at young adults. This is for people aged 25 to 34 only. 65.4% of young adults in Cleveland Heights have a BA or up. This is San Francisco levels. And this is outrageous. That's up about 4 percentage points from 2009. Those aged 35 to 44, 55.3%. Once again, educational attainments that rival the coasts. City of Cleveland, 23.6%, but that's actually risen pretty sharply over the past couple of years. It was about 16%. And then Cuyahoga County, young adults, 37.5%. So it's a highly educated city. That brings income, that brings disposable income, it brings business. So this is a map of the 25 to 34-year-olds with college degrees. The green dots, it's a dot density map. So that circle is downtown. To the left is Lakewood. Then you see Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights and University Circle. So those are the clusters where the young adults with college degrees in. Now it's a telling map. You can see a bifurcation of the city, where those with degrees live and those with degrees do not. So we do a lot of work with the city on what this means, as far as disparity, as far as geographies of disparity, geographies of economic dislocation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that for Cleveland Heights. So you're not going to be able to see this, but looking at income, this is family household income. 17.8% of household incomes in Cleveland Heights made under $25,000. That's in 2009. It's down to 15.2% in 2014. So I was a little surprised about that, because when you look at the metro and you look at the city, there's a growth of low-income households. So it's a little bit of against the grain here, which is a little surprising. Those making over $75,000 went from 19.1 to 24.4. Growth of high-income households. Between 50 to 75, growth of middle-income households, which again is bucking the trend. The city is an erosion of middle income, and the metro is an erosion of middle income. And then between 25 and 50, there is a slight decrease. So the low-middle income has shrunk. Now, median income, Cleveland Heights has remained the same. It's about $32,000. Now, remaining the same, this since 2000. That might not sound like a lot, but the study just came out. 9 out of the 10 biggest metros in the country have decreased in median household income. 9 out of 10. So this is a national thing, and Cleveland Heights remain the same. Poverty rate has increased. We talk about 25K, but a lot of those people, even though the group didn't grow, a lot of them grew in concentrated poverty. So the poverty went from about 11% to about 19%. Those are the latest numbers. So those are issues, because what you have in this economy is the divided city. You have people prepared for the new economy. You can't just show up at the factory floor and get a job anymore. You have to get trained. If you're not trained, you become dislocated from the workforce. And you have people prepared. They're trained and they're making high incomes. So it's a bifurcation of not only Cleveland Heights, it's a bifurcation of the city, the region, the county, the state, the country. And it's going to be big issues. We deal with Cleveland mostly. And there's upwards of 50% on the east side, males, 16 and above, that aren't in the labor force. Now these are shocking numbers. So this map right here, we talked about college educational attainment. The black areas are those areas that are more college educated than the nation, and the red areas are less college educated than the nation. You see how divided the region is? There's downtown, there's University Circle, there's the suburbs going east, suburbs going south, suburbs going west, and you have geographies of disparity and non-college educated folks, and poverty in the city. So it's tough having these geographies of disparity. I work with Mark and Chuck a lot at Case Western, and we talk about, well, how do you create avenues of growth in areas of historic disinvestment? And it's probably one of the hardest things to do, largely because of economic forces, and largely because of deindustrialization. Where are people going to work? It's a problem. It's a problem for every state. It's a problem for the country. And there's no easy answer. That's the tough one. So this is a map of concentrated poverty, and I have 2 more slides. You can see that as there was influence per capita income at the regional level, there's a corresponding growth of concentrated poverty, and you can see for Cleveland Heights, it's hard to see in this map, but there is a little bit of growth of concentrated poverty in Cleveland Heights. A massive amount of growth in the city. Right? So what do we do? What are the answers? It's a classic tale of 2 cities. Those prepared, those not prepared. Generations of those not prepared. What happens? Social issues that come about. What do we do? So this is a quick blush. We'll get into a lot of what are the issues in Cleveland Heights, some of your questions once we get the other panelists up. But it's a good demographic pack. Good demographic pack.
me. Good evening, everyone. First off, thanks for bearing with me tonight. I lost my voice a little bit over the weekend. A little open water swimming will clear you out. But it's really a unique experience to be at an annual meeting for a neighborhood organization where they invite outside people from other neighborhoods to come and talk. I know at our annual meeting in Detroit Shoreway, we have some great meatballs and the community gets together and we all share stories, but it's all about us. And it takes a strong community to say, what can we learn, how can we grow with some knowledge from a great panel tonight, so it's an honor to be here. My name is Adam Rosen. I'm the Economic Development Director with the Detroit Shoreway Community Development Organization. For those of you who don't know, Detroit Shoreway is not in Detroit. It's on the near west side of Cleveland, in Ohio. And there's another bit of confusion that I get when I talk about my job is that what's the difference between Detroit Shoreway and Gordon Square? Do you work for Gordon Square? A lot of people ask me if I got a new boss the other week when Carrie Carpenter assumed the executive director position at Gordon Square Arts District. No, we are two separate organizations. But I'm going to talk about our partnership tonight and what we'll be able to do and leverage those partnerships to create a vibrant neighborhood. And if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's an amazing neighborhood. So, back to So a little bit about Detroit Shoreway first is that we're unique in a community development corporation in that we own over 15 buildings in the neighborhood. And in those buildings, we have contributed over 250 affordable units of housing to the neighborhood. And what this does is it provides places for people to live, high quality places for people to live, where they can be a part of a growing, diverse neighborhood. And diversity is very important to us. We've also contributed to a number of other units, to a total of over 1,000 affordable units of high quality housing in the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood. And that's very important to maintain a neighborhood where people want to come to and be a part of. We also have 50,000 square feet of commercial space in those buildings. So 6 of those buildings have commercial space, and we help rent those out and can attract businesses to our spaces. So that's a unique position that'll kind of frame what we're able to do in the neighborhood. So we too, like Cedar Lee, had a streetscape. Joy Roller was a big part of that, former executive director of Gordon Square. 3.5 steps. And our resident of Cleveland. We're lucky to have her. You should tap her expertise if you haven't already. Excuse me. So a $3.5 million streetscape and collaboration between not only architects and designers, but also artists. We want it to be reflective of the businesses and the artistic institutions that are in Gordon Square. One of the main features of that streetscape was hiding some of those power lines, which is very important to have a welcome, opening environment for the street. We also added trees, lights, signage, a whole number of other things that require maintenance, and I'll talk a little about how we take care of that in a minute. Another way we partner together, and this is really unique, and we've been nationally recognized for this, is that Detroit Shoreway is the owner of the Capitol Theater, along with Cleveland Public Theater and Near West Theater, combined together to create the Gordon Square Arts District. And so it's a really unique partnership. And through that partnership, there was a capital campaign that was able to raise the money to not only invest in the neighborhood and help with the streetscape and master plan and those very important structural elements, but also to make capital investments in the arts, in the theaters, in our neighborhood. See, Capitol Theater, much like Cedar Lee Theater, is really an anchor for the neighborhood. It attracts up to 75,000 people. So a lot of what we're able to do as a CDC is able to really offer a low-cost administrative fee to maintain a lot of moving pieces and parts, subcontractors and things of that nature, to help not only invest in the look and the safety and the feel of the district, but also to market events and do other cool things in the neighborhood that make people want to come. And you do a lot of the same things here as well. The other is a community entertainment district, and while this generated a lot of controversy, it's done very tastefully in a way that the neighborhood has a way to, I guess, contribute to what types of restaurants with liquor licenses will be coming to be in Gordon Square. You know, I love going to West 25th or West 6th and some of the other entertainment districts in Cleveland, but we're not trying to be them. We're trying to have our own artistic flair. And what we're able to do with this program is to offer low-cost liquor licenses to businesses that contribute to that vision and come in before a neighborhood panel with neighborhood residents to make their case for why they should have this low-cost liquor license. And it's attracted a number of great restaurants, Local West, Brew Nuts, Toast is another. There's some great restaurants in the neighborhood, and they've all been able to take advantage of this program. So as a final piece, I want to talk about new business attraction. You know, a lot of these things have been able to leverage partnerships and collaboration and bring new business to the neighborhood. 78th Street Studios has been a great driver for us of artistic businesses. We've got special events. Dingus Day is a huge driver. It's an amazing cultural event. You should take off that Monday next year in March and come down. It's a lot of fun. Day of the Dead and a number of other things. Edgewater Live starting next week down at Edgewater. And we try to leverage those events to drive traffic to the businesses. So it's something you know very well here. But we also have a number of other things. In addition to owning space, we're able to use our committee to say, how do we meet the master plan in the neighborhood? Using the master plan that was as a result of a partnership with Gordon Square, how do we attract businesses that we want to see, that neighborhood residents will use, that will serve as catalysts for other development? And we have a committee that reviews different prospects and helps us attract prospects in the neighborhood. We've also been able to utilize some of the City of Cleveland's programs, the storefront renovation and economic development programs, neighborhood retail assistance programs that are unique to the City of Cleveland, but can help kind of bridge the gaps for some of these projects. So we really talk about relationships a lot when we talk about attracting businesses to the neighborhood, and that's where myself and the committee come in to really help generate that excitement for the types of businesses that are coming to the neighborhood. So I'm happy to talk more about the question and answers about how we do that, some of the challenges we face, but it's a real honor to be here again tonight, and I'd like to turn it over to Michael. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Michael Fleming. I'm the Executive Director for St. Clair Superior Development Corporation. That's me. Great job. So St. Clair Superior Development Corporation, this is actually really interesting that we're having this conversation with Detroit Shoreway followed by us. I really look at our neighborhood on the east side of Cleveland as something that is, you know, we're probably like 10 or 15 years away from where Detroit Shoreway is today. And they've worked hard, very hard at it for years and years, and this stuff takes a lot of time. So you'll get to see some perspective between the two organizations. This is our service area. It is stretching from the Intervale out to Martin Luther King, everything north of Kane and Superior up to the lake. Really interesting about that because we have 6.5 miles of shoreline, and yet nobody in the neighborhood knows that it's actually a lakeside community. No, this is true. It's because you can actually, I mean, I don't have, oh, I do. So St. Clair is right there. That's the zipper and spine of the neighborhood. This is about, you know, 1/3 of a mile of industry, followed by railroad tracks, more industry, and then a highway system. And none of that really helps. So once you actually get to the lake, then you have about 6.5 feet, or like a 6-foot fence with concertina wire on the top of it. So it's like, we've really told residents of the east side of Cleveland that this waterfront is not for you. Very conveniently located between downtown and University Circle, yet this neighborhood has 83% low to moderate income by definition. So it's like, it's kind of this quandary of how we can have such a well located on the lake between these two largest employment centers in northeast Ohio, and yet still have trouble finding residents to live there. What we've been known for as an organization, you guys have probably seen these before. Right now is the year of the monkey, but this is from the year of the dragons, the year of the Chinese zodiac, which we do every year. We have Asia Town in our neighborhood, so we celebrate that by doing these artist-driven statues, which you'll see pop up in and around Asia Town. Actually, a few people in here have invested in these over the years as well. So the reason we do that, again, is because we'd like to celebrate the cultural diversity of the community. There are 23 languages or dialects that are spoken in the St. Clair Superior community, ranging from Asiatown, where we have Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese. There's a series of Eastern European neighborhoods, specifically Slovenian is one of the largest population representations in Cleveland, and this is the kind of cultural center of the Slovenian community in Cleveland. African American, there's also Latino, and there's a few refugee populations as well. We're diverse economically, ranging from warehouse and to high-tech office that we see here at Tyler Village. And what we've become known for of late, of course, is the urban grazing program. I don't know if you guys remember this, but we did. It's a common problem in Cleveland where we have much more vacant land than we used to, and we have the city with the same budget in 2005 as it has now to maintain vacant property. So we started using 36 sheep and a llama to maintain 4.5 acres right on the lake. And naturally this got a lot of press across the United States, and I even got called an idiot on live radio by this gentleman, which, thank you. I've arrived. So this was the site, this is Key 55 right there, residential, and this is the site where we put the sheep, about 4.5 acres as I mentioned. The next year we actually saw rental values go up on the sheep view side. So this is like really an economic development question. We have a lot of things going on there, but what I really wanted to talk to you guys about is our Upcycle St. Clair project, because it really it targets retail in a way that I think will be really sort of salient for this group. On St. Clair, we have retail issues. We have so much retail in Northeast Ohio. There's a total glut of it, and it really affects neighborhoods like St. Clair Superior. So this was a common theme, and still is, on St. Clair in many parts of it, where we have board-up vacancies. There generally are occupancies behind them, but it's not retail anymore. And once you've taken away that glass, you've taken away a way to talk to people through space, right? So we started in 2012, 2013, filling them, giving small grants to artists and to small businesses to move in here, really looking for creative businesses. We got a bakery, we got the dance studio, we got a genealogical society, we have an art gallery, most of whom are still there. But it really opened up a new question for us, and Art Place America was a big investor, became a big investor as a result of this, discussion of how to reuse vacant space. What we realized we were doing is this notion of upcycling, or the ethos of upcycling, which is adding value to things which would otherwise find their way to the waste stream. And we have a lot of extra stuff in declining communities, that I mean declining in population, like we do in Cleveland and in St. Clair Superior. So we started teaching people how to work with upcycling as a strategy, particularly because we noticed so many upcycling artists already lived and worked in the neighborhood, creating necklaces like these. There's a woman who makes bags like this that are quite expensive actually out of old magazines. And we created the Upcycle Parts Shop, which is a creative reuse center. This is basically where you aggregate all of the materials that people can use, almost like art supplies. In fact, it does consider itself an art supply store. And the kind of example that I would give you is if you have one or two wine corks, it doesn't really do a lot of good. But if I presented you a box of 1,000 wine corks, everybody starts to look at those wine corks as, you know, it's a supply, something that you can actually use to make a cork board or who knows what else. And so this aggregation has a real power that gets people to understand the power of upcycling. We also take it on the road. We teach kids, we teach adults. We actually taught a group of legal professionals how to upcycle, and we told them that there were no rules, and the one judge replied, "I like rules." We also work with the school. We have an Upcycle Ambassadors Club where the kids were then, making these flowers and decorating the streets around them. But we took this on a variety of scales. So it's not just on small little objects. You can make furniture out of old houses. You can take vacant and abandoned buildings like this one in the lower right. And we worked with Kent State University to actually do the design work of this project and do the build work that summer too. So in our neighborhood where there's zero comps for real estate, it's important to try to get the the cost you put into a house as low as possible. So using students to do the design work and the build work is a great way to lower that cost and give them a great experience. And this is a rendering of the interior of it. We're still having trouble selling this, I'm going to be honest with you. It's been finished for a while, and we have buyers lined up. We have banks who want to give us the mortgage, and we can't get an appraiser to appraise. So this is a challenge for us. And this is I mean, this is the remnants of redlining, basically. So this is what we have to face in neighborhoods and communities like this. Again, the scale that we're talking about for upcycling, we're doing a plaza at East 64th Street in St. Clair, which focuses on, you guys have probably seen the reuse of shipping containers before, but more importantly, we're focused on the use of tires, which is a scourge in neighborhoods where people dump tires all the time. Creates a haven for mosquitoes, which obviously, in light of Zika virus, we know how big a problem that can be. We're using the tires to create a porous paver surface, and once you cut out the walls of the tires, they actually create this, you create this mesh, which once you fill it with rocks or grass, it becomes structurally, like you could park a car on it, essentially. As part of our strategy for neighborhood revitalization, we also do these creative placemaking approaches, including this one, where we wanted to market and brand the neighborhood using these kiosks, but in true creative placemaking fashion, we ask questions and engage people on the backside of it so that you would actually have sort of a social outcome. In our situation, we wanted to know what are people thinking about the neighborhood, what's their favorite history or favorite person in the neighborhood, what do we want to see in the future. And we did different events all summer long where people would come out and answer those questions, and these are some of the wonderful answers that you get. Patrice, she sees the beauty in everybody. Now, I don't know who Patrice is, but I know that she lives in my community, and that's important to me. And so important that we've now put it on walls and different parts of the community so that people see their own responses. I'm good looking, I think that's what it is. You know, in murals like this, so that they know that they're having impact and their message is important. We focus, again, on culture very, very deliberately. Current Vanya, I mentioned that there are 90,000 Slovenians in Northeast Ohio, and the largest Slovenian Catholic parish in the world outside of Ljubljana is in this neighborhood. Krnjavanje is the celebration of Slovenian Kudent, which is this pagan mythological god which is designed to scare away winter and welcome spring. That is actually me on the right-hand side there. So, like, community development is a really fun job, actually. But the parade, you know, celebrates the current, scares away winter. It happens. It is like carnivals. It happens the weekend before Lent, which is really hard to scare away winter in February, but we try our best. We focus on the Asia Town area too. We started night markets, which initially brought in 5,000 people the first event last year, and is now over 18,000 people in the fourth event. And this is just the first year, so it became an institution. If you guys have not been to this, it's really, really a fantastic thing with all sorts of amazing food, amazing art, great music, and this really represents the sort of diversity. Again, I want to focus on how significant culture is to us as we think about our neighborhood. Age perspective, this is a great, I mean, it starts at 5, so you get younger people, younger families, and it goes until 11, so you get what we just saw here. And then you also have a really great racial diversity with very overrepresented by Asian population, so 39%, which is more than the percentage in Northeast Ohio. We're also working on Hatch St. Clair, so this is, again, looking at the fact that we created these different access points, bringing people in, bringing lots of money into the community to buy. How do we help the existing businesses that are there, like Shelley's or Shaliga Meats, which gets the best Slovenian sausage year after year? And then how do we support new businesses? So how do we get people in the community to start making something with their hands that they can then sell at one of our markets? So Hatch St. Clair actually is a grant program, a support program that does just that. And it's because we saw people like this guy, Marino, who made this flower. Like, he saw the flowers that we made, and he said, I can do a lot better than that. He took the same materials and came back and made this incredible rose. And then this amazing flower, they could, you know, easily sell for $40 or $50 at the Cleveland Fleet. And you have to imagine, for somebody on fixed income, that's a lot of money. For me, that's a lot of money. So I would like to see more of this happening, and that's what that's supporting. So thank you very much.
say, that's me. That's Shell. No, that is me. So, my name is Dione Alexander, and I'm the president of Village Capital Corporation, which is a subsidiary of Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. We're about a 25-year-old community development intermediary based in Cleveland. We're at East 116th and Martin Luther King, and I'll show you a project in our office. But I actually run the lending subsidiary, which is called Village Capital. So all we do is real estate financing. So everyone has told you about their wonderful projects and their visions for their communities and aspirations, and I'm here to bring you down. So quell all of that energy and enthusiasm. I'm here to talk about money, because without money, there is no mission. And so how do we finance all of this great stuff? So I'd like to start with you for one of my favorite proverbial sayings, and it really rings true to all the wonderful work that you do in Cleveland Heights and University Heights. And it really says this, that every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up. It knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle or starve to death. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows that it must outrun the fastest lion or die. The moral of the story is, it doesn't make a difference whether you're a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. So, Cleveland Heights and University Heights, the sun has come up and you are running, because we have to take some action. Inaction is an action by itself. And so you have wonderful ideas, you have great communities, and you're implementing these plans. And really my part is to talk about how do you pay for all of that, and what is the landscape of community development finance. So I'm going to click over here. Sort of explain what we do. So what is a community development intermediary? We work with neighborhood organizations, primarily community development corporations, their stakeholders, government entities, to talk about what do healthy, vibrant communities need, and we work with them on capacity and planning to make that happen. Cleveland Neighborhood Progress has two wholly owned subsidiaries, Village Capital Corporation, which is a community development finance institution, the organization that I run, and New Village Corporation, which is real estate design and planning. We have been around and heard the stories of the neighborhood that really came out of having a system that wasn't quite rational. We had lots of community development corporations in the city of Cleveland sort of stepping over each other and sort of fighting for the same pot of funds, and not doing the collaboration that you see now, or not doing the collaboration that you see at Future Heights. Some of those organizations by default have gone by the wayside. Some had a very small footprint. So you had a CDC whose footprint was really, my block and my three neighbors, and realized that that wasn't sustainable. So CNP was actually founded by the Cleveland Foundation and the Dunn Foundation and other supporters to say, how do we make this a more rational system where we have objectives for how the community grows? We realized very early on, after helping people planning and strategy without financing is sort of a fool's errand, because you need to be able to hit the ground and implement the things that you planned. So shortly thereafter, we formed a revolving loan fund. We were known as a civic fund because so much of our money came from philanthropy and from government and other places. So it was really a pool of capital to kind of seed these projects that were coming out of the CDCs. We do all kinds of real estate lending. If it comes out of the ground, we will finance it. So there's retail, commercial, we do affordable housing, we do market rate housing, we do theaters and public spaces. Some of those buildings that Michael talked about in Shoreway and in the Arts District, we finance grocery stores. Why do you need community development financing? Because there are some projects that really are not yet commercially viable that need that support. It may be very difficult for a traditional bank to do those kinds of projects. They may have very long lead times. They may have some complexities about them, or you may want to actually address a challenge or opportunity in your neighborhood that it's an emerging market. I was talking during the social hour with various stakeholders in the community, and many pointed out there are some sections in Cleveland Heights that are border towns that are experiencing a great deal of poverty, have experienced a lot of foreclosure, but you've taken ownership for that, and it may take a while for those to turn, and you need some investment. So somebody's got to go first. A lot of times, you're always looking for the next person to go first. Somebody's got to lead. And so we put together this pool of capital so that we could begin to lead on those projects. We could incentivize banks and impact investors and others to go into these projects that do neighborhood strengthening and improvement. So that's, I tell you this backdrop to say, to the next slide, what did it look like, the landscape? So since 2000, we have developed over 54 units of housing, that is both retail, market rate and low-income housing, and over $2 billion square feet of commercial space. I'm going to point out some of these commercial spaces. The Cleveland Public Theater, Dave's Supermarket, and many of you know the Salzmans. There was a food desert in many neighborhoods in Cleveland, and we didn't have a way to incentivize grocery store operators to go into retail strips to open grocery stores. And so Village Capital financed all of the Dave's Supermarket spaces in Cleveland. This middle picture is the Shaker Square Shopping Center, which you all know is the oldest continuously running shopping center in the United States as a planned shopping center. And Shaker Square had fallen on some hard times and has gone through some management changes, and we were able to provide several loans to the center to revitalize that. And it really is the heart of the Buckeye Shaker neighborhood. Housing is centered around the Shaker Square Center. Arts are centered around there. Our theater, much like the Cedar Lee, the Shaker Cinema is there. And so we need to have that healthy retail shopping district, and we need to use it as a driver to spawn other commercial businesses. I'm going to talk about the picture over here a little bit more in my last slide. That is my office. That is the old St. Luke's Hospital. Are there any St. Luke's babies here? There had to be some. So I was told at one point, I'm not going to date myself or anyone else, but anyone that was born kind of before 1960 something, it is very likely about 70% of the babies in Cleveland were born at the old St. Luke's. It was a premier obstetrics hospital, and it also was a neurosurgery center. Pardon me? It's on East 116th. It's at MLK. It's sort of the site of the Harvey Rice School and Library. It's that odd, wonky corner where Shaker Boulevard cuts across it. But we're going to talk a little bit about that project in great detail in my last slide. So, community development finance, largely, is really that group of funding sources that are meant to help communities thrive. And it comes in all kinds of flavors. You have banks, you have CDFIs, you have impact investors, you have philanthropy, you have the public sector. Why do people do community development finance? The reasons are varied. They do it because of civic responsibility. We want these projects in our neighborhood. We're going to go first. We're going to invest. They do it for regulatory compliance. Many banks do it because of Community Investment Act, and there is a mandatory requirement that you provide community services in places that you take deposits. Others do it because there is a social engagement need. The number one thing in community development and in community finance, the mantra is do nothing about me without me. And so as these wonderful plans are being developed, if you are not listening to the voice of the community, you are doing a disservice, because it's very easy for me to fly in off my broom from the east side of Cleveland and say, I know what you need, I know how you should build it, I know how you should finance it. Those are decisions that should come up organically from the communities that you serve. And you have to craft them the way that they are bankable, but you need to be true to your vision about what your community needs. And that requires engagement. And so it answers that important question, if not now, then when? And if not us, then who? We are self-determined communities, and we will decide what we need, and we'll create and collect the resources to make that happen. What are the tools in our toolkit to finance this stuff? In the public sector, there are tax credits. There are special entertainment districts. There are tax increment or TIF districts. There are low-income housing tax credits. There are new market tax credits. And all of these say is, if there is a pool of investors that have tax liabilities, the government will give you a credit against those taxes if you invest in a project. And so it is a subsidy of sort from the government that offsets tax credits. So many corporations, one of the biggest purchasers of tax credits in the Cleveland area and across the country is Sherwin-Williams. They offset their tax liabilities with the state by buying credits, and those credits go to projects and communities across the city and across the state. There's debt, good old-fashioned, we gotta borrow it. And none of us like to go in debt, but this is good debt. So there are various debt tools. Some foundations offer program-related investments, which would be low-interest loans to projects and communities and organizations. There are community development lenders like myself that will provide debts. We do construction financing, we'll do lines of credit to help get these projects off the ground. Government agencies provide loans. The Economic Development Agency, HUD, Small Business Administration, all are debt providers in these kinds of projects. Equity, private investors. The private sector cannot be counted out. You need a lot of partners to make this work. So there are private investors and private developers who are putting their skin in the game in these projects. There are other kinds of special pots of money. At the state level, there is a capital development fund. Port authorities are very important economic drivers and funders of work, whether it's through direct investments or through the ability to eliminate sales tax on building products that go into these projects. I'm originally from Akron. I moved back to the Cleveland area from many years in Detroit and New York about a year and a half ago. And I had a meeting and someone said, we're meeting at the Port Authority of Akron. And I said, if you can tell me where the shore of Akron is, we're on, I'm taking that bet all day. But port authorities these days are not maritime organizations as we used to recognize them. They're primarily economic development organizations. So there are several tools that we use to finance commercial, industrial, real estate, housing development in communities. This is my last slide, and I want to talk to you about partnership. Being the outsider, I'm going to get my outsider credit. I can only ride this train for another couple months and then I'm officially a Clevelander again. So now I can speak as the outsider, and you can kick me out later. The thing that I have found in community development work and in community development finance, which I've been doing for many, many years, is that we've got to get off the dime of credit taking versus credibility. It doesn't make a difference who gets the credit, you've got to get the work done credibly. And that means we've got to partner. And we've got to partner with people we don't like, we've got to partner with people that look like us, we've got to partner with people who aren't in our political persuasion, because politics makes for strange bedfellows. So it takes a whole bunch of partners when you do this work. I told you the last slide that I was going to talk about is my office building and the old St. Luke's Hospital. This was 800,000 square feet that became blighted and abandoned when the hospital closed. really an eyesore on a community that is already dealing with incredibly high rates of poverty, literacy, infant mortality issues, many life outcome achievement and attainment goals far beyond, lower than the state and beyond the national averages. So when you factor on blighted and abandoned buildings, I want you to realize that there is a people effect. I don't just do this because it's real estate lending. I came from a money center bank. I do this from the heart, and it is a passion about how communities grow. And so when people see blighted buildings in your area, it says something about how they feel about themselves and how they feel about the community. So we already had a poor community that had an 800,000 square foot blighted building. Not a good thing. So we came in to the building. Our office was originally on West 25th Street, and we took on this project, and we had this many dollars to our name to do the work, but we had to bring it together. We tore down 400,000 square feet of the building, and what you're seeing now, let me tell you, this is where this partnership slide comes in. Everyone that could put $1 into this, everyone that had a good idea that can come into this, we took all of that and more. It had historic tax credits, it had low-income tax credits, it had new market tax credits, it had foundation grants, it had private developers, it had 3 loans from me, enterprise community partners. In that building, we did 138 units of affordable senior housing in one wing, and another wing is our office. It's a St. Luke's Foundation. Even though this was the remainder trust of the hospital closing, it had never been on the campus of the hospital or even on that side of town. We asked them to move back. Show the community that you are, you want to have your name on this building. And so they are in the building. Breakthrough Schools, a highly rated charter school. They saw the building in its blighted, rough state, and I don't know what was going on in the director's mind, but she walked through and said, I see the vision. You know, you're lost, but you're making good time. So I think we can move here. They were looking for a bigger school, so they moved in. We are in an educational and intergenerational learning campus. So the Harvey Rice School, a CMSD school, which is fairly low performing and getting better. Lovely principal there. Their school is on the campus right next to this high performing charter school. We have the Harvey Rice Library, which was down the street on Buckeye Road. We did a land swap with them to get them on this campus. So now we're building the pieces. It's one by one, we're building the pieces. The CDC in the neighborhood, Buckeye Shaker Square area development, they were involved. The community stakeholders were involved. The city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. We had a very patient construction company who realized that we were starting a $78 million campus with $0, who worked with us as we kind of felt our way through this. And I can't even begin to name the countless other individuals and stakeholders that were necessary. So it's a lovely tale and a cautionary tale as well, that when you do this work, you're not doing it in a vacuum. And when you take on the big, hairy, audacious goals, Severance, and others, Deanna made me do that plug. So now there are several really wonderful challenges and opportunities, but when you're taking on something that big, it is something that's not just Cleveland Heights, it's not just University Heights, it is a whole host of partners that you have to work with to get it done. And so I will reserve time for questions later, but I want you to really believe that this is collaboration nation, that every voice is valuable, and that you need every dollar that you can raise from every source to do all of the wonderful things that we plan to do for Future Heights.
Okay. Okay. Kind of looks like me. Bob Brown.
been a city planner for about 40 years. I spent most of the last 30 of them with the city of Cleveland, partially as a city planning director there, partially as assistant director. They also work with the County Planning Commission. I want to talk to you this evening about the role of community planning in saving and strengthening our neighborhood business districts. The neighborhood business districts that we have, or as I like to call them, the town center areas in Cleveland Heights and University Heights, didn't happen by accident. They were planned, believe it or not. It was a long time ago, but the cities made decisions as to where these retail districts should be located. There was zoning put in place to back that up, and it didn't happen by accident. So it doesn't make any sense to expect these neighborhood business districts, these town centers, to adapt successfully to changing circumstances on their own without some outside help through community planning. And that's what this is all about. And as was said before, there is no substitute for real community engagement. It doesn't matter how talented your city planners are. You have a very talented planner in Richard Wong and Carol O'Donnell, and you have architects involved. These are talented, skilled people, but you cannot create an effective plan for any neighborhood and for a neighborhood retail district without the participation of the people who know best. And that's the people who live in, work in, and shop in those areas. So it's not just kind of giving lip service to community engagement. If you want a successful plan that's implemented, you have to have community engagement. It's as simple as that. I would say the most basic, I'm a city planner from way back, so excuse me if I get jargony, but the most basic level of community planning is what we call land use planning. And this simply is what use of land should go where. Where should retail go? Where should residential go? Where should apartment buildings go? Where should parks go? Where should churches and schools go? Where should the use of land be? Now, I'm going to give you an example from the city of Cleveland. That's where I've spent most of my career working. Without labeling, you may guess that this north-south street is East 105th Street in Glenville. Superior is the cross street at the bottom, and St. Clair is the cross street at the top. On this land use map, which if you're not a planner, you wouldn't have the colors memorized, but red is retail, although it just means there's a retail building. It doesn't mean there's a store in it, there's a retail building. White is actually vacant land, where most likely a building was torn down. And then the darker green is the churches and schools, and it's supposed to be yellow, and it's like light green there is housing. So we looked in a planning process, working with the community, at this whole stretch of East 105th Street. And we said, looking specifically at retail, looks like there's a lot there, but most of those red squares there are stores that are empty or boarded up, or very marginally occupied. So we said, okay, what should the future be? So we came up with, of course, a future land use map. And we said, okay, we don't have enough income, enough people, there's competition around to fill every block with viable, vibrant retail stores. We need to focus. Let's focus on the intersection of East 105th and St. Clair, and let's focus on the intersection of East 105th and Superior. And then we realized, even though this was harder, it's an awful long stretch where people have no walk to convenience retail. So let's try to create some strong convenience retail somewhere toward the middle. Because what we don't want is if you just try to fill all the retail space that's there when there's no market for it, you'll end up with this. You'll end up with retail buildings that are boarded up or converted to warehousing, or sometimes apartments that are maybe not typical quality. So you look at things like infill housing. Maybe what used to be retail can't be retail, but you want it to be productive, you don't want it to be vacant. So maybe it makes sense to figure out where you should have housing. Because what you want is wherever your retail exists, you want it to be vibrant. You want it to be full of people, and that makes it safer. These are all Cleveland Heights, by the way. This is not East 105th Street. If you can identify where each one is, you'll get a prize at the end. And it's the same thing with Cleveland Heights. I'm just giving the example of Lee Rosen. We're focusing on it a bit here. But just like East 105th Street, it's an awful long area. Cedars in the middle of the stretch. I'm putting a Superior in Kane Park at one end, and the library and the Obama at the other end. So the question is, Should we be targeting the retail to certain areas? Can we really fill every block with retail? In fact, a lot of it has never been that way. I give one quick example here. There's a great reuse of a building called the Bottle House. It's vibrant, there are people on the sidewalks, it's a great use. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be there, but just think about the fact it's in a location without a lot of other neighborhood retail uses nearby. There's a wonderful auto repair place, and then there's other places there, I think so. But so I'm just thinking, what if another spot here, which is the vacant lemongrass, and who knows what lemongrass was originally? McDonald's, yes. What if something like the Bottle House were there? Wouldn't that have more synergy? Wouldn't that create more vibrant retail district? I'm not saying it should do, but it's just a sense of why land use planning makes some sense. It makes some sense to cluster things together because they actually give you more bang for the buck that way. Now, it's not enough to know where things go. It's important to know how buildings relate to the streets and to the community around them. Here's a very simple urban design plan which shows a major street in front, and the key thing it shows there is the buildings are on the street. They're not set back behind parking lots, and also you can see they're 2 or 3 stories in height, so there's more activity there. It's probably storefronts with offices or housing above. What we don't want is this. Now, I have to say this is from the city of Cleveland, this is East 53rd from Superior. What we don't want is, if we want a vibrant retail district, we don't want the parking lot to be what's on the street, because that means that you'll probably get very few people walking on the sidewalk. They'll all park and go in the store and this and that. What we want, and of course this is a very progressive community here, is drugstores that are built on the street, not set behind parking. And that's something that an urban design plan sets the stage for, and then a city and a community need to enforce that project by project. And it's not enough to have the buildings in the right place, but of course the buildings have to look good. And as someone mentioned, they also have to have transparent storefront windows so there's interaction with the street. So you come up with design guidelines, and I'm sorry to repeat something. I'm not quite there. So we don't want this. I mean, this is not a storefront that's going to be good for its neighbors. It's going to attract people to the area. What we want is something like this. This happens to be Gordon Square. But we want storefronts that look like this. Now, this was design guidelines, but then they're implemented through a design review process, and in most cases, a storefront program, which adds some money to the design review process, and then you get what you want. You kind of know what you want, and then you implement that. But then there's zoning. I happen to be very much into zoning, so you can tell I'm a fairly boring guy. But the fact is that plans alone are just guides, especially with respect to location of things. Zoning is the law. Plan is a guide, zoning is the law. So it's important. This happens to be noble, and I'm not saying it's zoned right or wrong, but the fact is you have to look at the zoning of your neighborhood business districts and see if the zoning is in effect implementing the plan that you come up with. Because if you come up with a great plan and say, oh, but things are getting built that aren't consistent with our plan, well, then you didn't change the zoning. And it's not enough to change the zoning map. It's important to change the zoning code. So if your zoning code is out of date, this happens to be something from the city of Columbus, where they created something called a traditional neighborhood retail development, a neighborhood development district, and they say it's to create mixed-use, vibrant districts that have pedestrian activity and actually can work for people who don't even drive but need to walk to places. So, it's the zoning map and it's the zoning code. And finally, what's going on right here down the street on Lee Road is streetscape plans. Everything we've talked about so far is private. It's the private buildings, it's the private properties, but then there's the public realm. The public realm is the street and the sidewalks. It's really the front door to these business and mixed-use districts, and that's the city's responsibility. So having a great streetscape creates the incentive for property owners to build and to reuse and rehabilitate the properties that front on that street. And again, using Gordon Square as an example, it was a great streetscape project that was done there. And you can see, this really transformed the look of this West 65th and Detroit area. And the result has been this and many other things, a vibrant retail district. And that's it. I just wanted to end with saying it's not enough to have great plans, great urban designs, great zoning. It's important, if you want to carry this out, to have a marketing program and to have some funding to be behind that. In Cleveland, it was typically a collaboration between the city government and community development organizations that created that marketing, that promotion, that funding. Thank you.
What a great presentation. Let's have a quick round of applause for our panel. We know some of you want to ask a couple of questions. We've run a little bit long, so we'll take a few questions from the crowd. I want to reintroduce Richey Piiperinan. If you have a question, please walk up here and ask it, and then we'll get to the final part of our program because we definitely want to hear from Mayor Cheryl Stevens, and I have a few closing remarks before you go, so be patient. Here's Richey once again.
Does anyone have any questions?
This is Cleveland Heights, of course I do.
So I'd rather go to questions than just ask my own. So the question is, does Cleveland Neighborhood Progress fund Cleveland Heights?
We have not historically funded inner-ring suburbs, and we are beginning to have that conversation. We went to the first suburbs meeting last year and are looking for ideas.
So for CDCs to begin, who are the key players? Venture capitalists, residents?
Well, I would say, since I'm the oldest one in town, that in my experience, CDCs are normally born by residents who have a concern. Sometimes it's born in a negative way, like there's something to fight, something bad is happening, and the residents get together and say, how can we influence the future in a positive way? Because we want to stay, we're not going to leave. And often then, that will start out as just a civic organization and will eventually progress into becoming an incorporated development corporation because the group of volunteers begin to realize, as it was said here, that without some money behind the projects, a lot of good ideas go kind of unbuilt. So it's usually, from my experience, the residents and then the elected officials partnering with those residents, and then everyone comes on board, then foundations and others, and developers, but usually starts with the residents. Sometimes with merchants as well, because they're local as well as residents.
Hi, my name is Shaka Asbury. I'm actually contracted with Neighborhood Connections to two major performance events for the community building events. I really applaud you all for bringing this conversation to the table. The thing is that we're going to do monthly mixes to be able to maintain momentum in these types of conversations. So that's the key. How can we keep this thing going where Cleveland Heights is a part of the conversation?
So the question distilled is, how do we maintain the momentum of these kind of group conversations so there can be a guiding vision driving development going forward?
It's really, I mean, in Cleveland, there's so many interesting groups that are, and you're probably an example of them. You know, there's Creative Mornings, I know, that's bringing people together around just sort of creativity, and there's all sorts of other forums that are emerging. I would tell Cleveland Heights to make it Cleveland Heights, you know, that's the only thing. Like when I went through, I got a tour the other day, and I was really impressed with how like culturally distinct this area is, and it was things that I didn't know that there was this huge Jewish population in Cleveland Heights. And I grew up in Shaker Heights, so that's kind of saying something. So you know, there's things like that. There's Asian populations, there's refugee populations, and all of these groups that I had never known about. So, like bringing people together around sort of the cultural significance of this place, I think is really key.
Yeah, I'll say too that for a long time, Gordon Square, you know, we had an event where it was basically like a block club, you know, like a block party. And you know, you go to a block party almost anywhere, right? I mean, you get some music and you get food and maybe some vendors in the street. It's cool, but what makes it unique? So last year we piloted a new event that was more along the lines of a performing arts street festival. So, you know, we're known as an arts district, but it's really a performing arts district. And so how do we use, you know, bring people in the neighborhood and showcase, you know, what we're really known for, which is the theaters and the performing arts and really unique ways to put street performances in cool places. So, you know, that's speaking to Michael's point, be unique, be what you are, and utilize what you have and build off of those things.
We got time for 2 more?
I have a question about whether it makes sense for each of the communities to develop community suburbs entities to develop on their own, or whether, especially based on the demographic data that showed about disparities and things like that, that there couldn't be, if there was cooperation throughout the greater Cleveland metropolitan area to really develop this and create synergies, create economies of scale for some of the things that would help businesses, that would help. It seems that there's power in numbers, and would still be keeping it local. Talk about keeping capital within a community. I think that, for example, Cleveland Heights is fairly small, may not have critical mass, but Greater Cleveland, as a community of about 2 million, could be a very significant economic engine if there was really some cooperation in the greater area and maybe address some of these disparity issues because there's an incentive for some cross-fertilization.
So I think, so the question, maybe you can give that. Yeah, so you're talking about CDCs in particular, or at least the creation of CDCs, or just regionalism in general? So I kind of...
I'm going to throw something out. I don't know if anybody's heard of something called the pollinators. There's a whole theory of pollination, which is coordinating business community, the residents, financial institutions, and coordinating such that it becomes a financially viable ecosystem. And players can be community development corporations, or they can be these strategic partnerships of those with the various players that I think Dione talked about, as, for example, in that project, really to create strategic partnerships, but on a regional instead of just a small community scale.
So I think maybe we can talk about, so a lot, in Cleveland, a lot of the CDs got put together because there was too many small CDs. So the return to scale was, and a lot of them weren't efficient. So when you're looking at the suburbs, should Cleveland Heights be working with Shaker Heights from a more efficient standpoint on community and regional development, or should separate groups be set up?
You know, it's a huge, and regionalism is a huge topic, and I dealt with it for years, given my positions in the past. The fact is that our governmental structures, really in America, in Ohio, really don't need to regionalism. Sure, we have regional agencies like NOACA, and we have regional players like Greater Cleveland Partnership and this and that. But the fact is, in many ways, each city, each suburb is on its own. We have a separate tax base, we have separate school districts, we have 59 local governments in Cuyahoga County, there are 31 school districts. And I would say that there are certain things where regional cooperation is happening and needs to happen. You know, certainly there are groups like Fund for Economic Future, Greater, Cleveland Partnership, and other groups that do look to work at a regional scale, and NOACA. But I would have to say that there are other things that actually work best at the local level. I mean, I think what we see in Cleveland neighborhoods, the fact that each neighborhood is developing its own identity, its own character, actually makes all the city of Cleveland stronger, because you have, you know, let's say 25 strengthening parts of the city rather than just trying to make the whole city rise in one, kind of whatever, one fell swoop. I think it's the same thing with the suburbs. Each suburb has to build on its own identity, make it a great place to live and to shop, and then collectively our suburbs together will become more prosperous. So I don't think that we need to do, we certainly don't need to homogenize our approach and say all the suburbs should just band together and work as a single unit. I think working separately, but with some collaboration, has great benefits.
Folks, we wish we had time for a few more questions, but at this time, it's my distinct honor and great pleasure to introduce to you the Mayor of Cleveland Heights, Ms. Cheryl Stevens. Cheryl?
Thank you for that quite positive plug. I want to tell you that this town may have had a couple of missteps, but we're headed in the right direction. I have the distinct pleasure of having worked for years with Bob Brown. I've been everything from the junior gopher in an economic development department to the director of development for Cuyahoga County. I understand and know about the things we need to do, but one of the things that every one of the panel members said was partnerships and collaborations are key to successful futures. And so I've been your mayor for 5 months now. I was counting while I was sitting there. I was sworn in on January 4th, and June 4th is coming up soon. So the reality is that we have to build some partnerships. For many years, we were independent and by ourselves. So the first partnerships that I began to work on with my council colleagues, because everything is a partnership. You're not elected to serve all by yourself, in this town anyway. You're elected to serve with your council colleagues. And so we have been committed to 4 priority goals since the evening I was sworn in. That is working on improving the parking in our commercial and business districts. We will be doing models with our garages on Cedar Fairmount, Cedar Lee, and Coventry. We have a commitment to economic development initiatives. We want to talk about how housing, since it's our major industry, can be strengthened and work better for us. And now it gets to the part where a few members of council may have different ideas, and so we'll have to collaborate and finally agree on whether it's 4 committees or 5 we have to focus on things. But we do believe that safety is an important issue and our finances are an important issue. And so what we did was to begin to talk among ourselves first. And now we're reaching out, and our first committee for pushing forward, listening to community residents, beginning to reach out to parties outside of our community, will be the Economic Development Advisory Group. Many of you know that we have been in partnership with Cuyahoga County. They awarded us money to do a master plan for the community. We're not going to ignore that master plan, but we're going to take the things that come out of that master plan. And for those of you who've been around planning, and especially at the master planning level for a community, you know that the core document can be 50 pages long with lists that have 135 items on it, depending on the number of neighborhoods and the size of your community. What each of the groups that we talk about will do is focus on getting the city council and city staff a short list so that we will be able to say, within 2 to 3 years, you gave us these 5 things to do, and you prioritize these 3 as must-dos, and then we move forward. So the first committee that we're moving forward with is economic development. Each member of council is able to select a person that they pick to put on the committee, and we try to look at the north end of town, the south end of town, people who appear to be affluent, people who appear to be middle class. We think we're mostly a middle class community. We want to work with people who have experience in the field and people who just know what it's like to live and love in Cleveland Heights. And so, with that economic development committee, we passed legislation creating it and sending it to work the middle of June. The chair has been selected. It's Gary Benjamin, who's lived in the community probably less than 10 years, but he's learned what those of us who are on council, all 7 of us know. You've got to love this town like you love a member of your family. And when you do that, you'll figure out a way to make it better and stronger and smarter. And that's what I'm about, and that's what my 6 colleagues are about. We're trying to figure out how to keep the community we love, not in the past, but in the future. That is the best thing we can do in service to you. And so, we're reaching out to people. When Deanna called me and asked, would you do a few minutes, I said, you know this is going to turn into a commercial for Cleveland Heights. So, the commercial for Cleveland Heights is that nobody is too big or too small for us to embrace inside our community. If you're a resident, we will listen to your concerns and your issues. We won't always respond exactly the way you want us to, but be assured that council and staff are listening to you. And sometimes you'll wake up and we will have changed what we were doing, and it looks very similar to what you told us to do. And that's important. And then when it comes to partnerships outside the community, I'm targeting those people on the Cleveland Foundation's Board of Trustees. So, for example, one of the board members is someone I've known for about 20 years. And so she has had the pleasure of having dinner with me twice in the last 30 days, because she was first. Then the chairman of their board has had to give up time on a Saturday because his calendar and mine weren't working during the week. And his assistant called me today and told me that I could have 2 hours on Saturday if I would help him with a youth car wash. So I'm not too proud to beg. I can wash a car to convince somebody to invest in Cleveland Heights. And then there's the vice chair. So I've got a strategy, and I know who on that board we're going to hit up to think about the fact that if the suburban inner ring communities begin to fail, then this region can begin to teeter and fall apart. But for those of us who love this town, the diversity and the commitment, I've talked to people in this room who've lived here more than 30 years, who when their kids grew up and went off to college and found homes of their own, some of them brought those kids back into the community, but those people are still there. And those of you who are in the room, know I called you in January and kept going. One person said to me, well, you know, I get up early and walk in the morning. I'll walk with you. At 5 a.m.? No, I'm sorry, I won't walk with you. But I'm willing to consider it. Well, I'm going to walk more than 5 miles. Well, if you walk 3 miles, I'll walk with you. So we finally compromised, and he came to City Hall and met with me. But if you are willing to invest in Cleveland Heights, so are we. And we're going to find the people outside of Cleveland Heights who are willing to invest in us. We are not going to turn the wrong direction. We have people like the Dean of Case Western Reserve's Mandel School of Social Sciences who've lived in Cleveland Heights almost 40 years. I reached out to him and told him my best intern came from Cleveland Heights at my daytime job, and from Case Western. So I want 4 or 5 interns like that. Form a partnership with me so we can afford it, so that we can have people who are young and energetic help us at City Hall find those new ideas and build the bridges to the future. Diversity, arts, living and being diverse in your economics, your politics, your cultural perspectives, that is who we are. We represent the best of America, the most educated of America. And if the brightest, smartest, the hardest working can't figure out the future of America, then we have a problem. But I believe we can figure out the future of America, but it's only because all of you keep telling me the different pieces and parts, and City Council, what we have to do to make this right. So don't give up on us, continue to invest, and I know I don't really want to say this, but keep sharing your opinions, because we work for you. Thank you.
Thank you for those candid remarks, Mayor Stevens. Can we just have one short round of applause for Mayor Stevens and her candid presentation? You know, the city of Cleveland Heights has been a terrific partner to Future Heights. We've worked hard in recent years to build a relationship with them because we understand that it's only through working together in collaboration that we all succeed. We all share the same values and the same commitments, and we all want the same future for our community. So it's great to have a leader at City Hall that understands where we're all coming from and is willing to be transparent, communicative, and proactive. So thank you for that, Mayor. So as we close our program tonight, by a show of hands, how many people in the room are committed to a future that's bright and vibrant for the Cleveland Heights, University Heights community? How many of you? Raise your hand if you love Cleveland Heights and University Heights and want to see a good future. Okay, that's most of the people in the room. So what I want to say is we'd like to invite you to partner with us. Become a member, volunteer, make a donation, whatever is within your wheelhouse. But not everyone has time to volunteer. You know, we all have busy lives and jobs. So there's a way to affect change, okay? And I've got a big announcement to make with regard to affecting change in our community. What I want to announce is we have a generous donor in our midst, right? People that care very deeply about our community and have been invested not just in our community, but in Future Heights and many other areas for a number of years. They said to us that for every dollar raised tonight, up to $10,000, they will match it dollar for dollar tonight. Is that worth clapping for? So I want to say at this time, you've all received an envelope, a packet when you arrived tonight. At this time, we'd like to ask for your support. We're going to be blunt and deliberate about this. We need your support. We need you to reach into your envelope, write us a check, give us a credit card number. We have a square available through a cell phone. This is your opportunity to help where you live, take the next step into the future through Future Heights, through the city of Cleveland Heights, in any way that you're willing to do. We have people going around to collect those envelopes at this time right now. Please donate. And at this time, I'd also like to thank our panelists. Richey, thank you for moderating our panel. Adam, thank you for coming. Dione, you were great. Michael, wonderful. And Bob, thank you for serving on our committee. All your presentations were wonderful. Let's give them a round of applause. I really hope that you guys found this program inspiring, informative. How many people learned something tonight? I know I did. A lot of great information passed along tonight. We want to work together with people like these, work together with our city, work together with other engaged citizens like yourselves to keep our community great, because we as Future Heights don't give up, right? I grew up here, I own a house here, I got to continue to live here. So because of that, I can't ever give up on Cleveland Heights, University Heights. I got to keep fighting. So help us fight. Pull out your checkbook, open your envelope, please donate, and we appreciate it. I want to just reintroduce Deanna to close things out.
Thank you very much, Richard. So thank you again to our panelists. We have some nice parting gifts for you. We've got a commemorative poster of this evening, a Heights Music Hop t-shirt, which we hope you'll wear proudly, and we hope to see you back in September, and a gift certificate to one of our favorite Heights establishments. We've got 5 different establishments that we'd like to give to you. So thank you again for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. So just a couple other announcements. As Richard said, we'd love to have you involved. We do have a fundraiser happening this Sunday. Peter Lawson Jones's new play, The Bloodless Jungle, is being shown. They're actually doing a staged reading at Ensemble Theater, which is in our building in the Coventry Elementary School. So we'd love to have you join us. There's some information up at the front table. And again, thank you very much for being here tonight, and we appreciate your support.